A word of caution, dear viewers. The tale I'm about to unfold will chill your bones and curdle your blood. Let me paint a picture for you. Picture an intimate restaurant tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. It's the kind of place where the lights are dimmed, just enough to spark intrigue, where the clinking of silverware against fine china becomes a symphony of subtle sounds. A man and a woman sit across from each other, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of a single candle in the center of the table. They share laughter and stories, seemingly lost in their own world. The man, a tall figure with sharp features, exudes an air of authority, while the woman, with her soft eyes and gentle smile, compliments him perfectly. Their chemistry is palpable, a dance of words and glances that pulls at the heart. Yet as they sip on their wine and indulge in their meal, there hangs in the air a sense of unease, a feeling that something is not quite right. The restaurant itself is a character in our tale. Its aged wooden beams and antique chandeliers whisper stories of the past, each carrying a weight of history that's almost tangible. The wallpaper, a faded tapestry of intricate patterns, seems to hold secrets within its weave. And the air is thick with an overwhelming scent of antiquity, a mixture of dust, old books, and something else. Something darker. The waitstaff, dressed in crisp uniforms, move with mechanical precision, their faces devoid of emotion. They circle the room like phantoms, blending into the background, yet their presence is always felt, a constant reminder of the restaurant's eerie charm. As our couple toasts to an evening of indulgence, they remain blissfully unaware of the strange undercurrents surrounding them. Their laughter echoes in the hushed restaurant, a stark contrast to the silent anticipation that fills the room. They are yet to realize that their night is about to take a sinister turn. Little did they know the evening was about to take a sinister turn. As they perused the menu, something peculiar caught their eye. It wasn't your typical collection of culinary delights. No. This menu harbored a sinister undertone, its pages filled with dishes that seemed to have been ripped straight from a nightmare. There were entrees like succulent spider legs, roasted rat roulade, and fried bat wings. The dessert section was no less alarming, boasting delicacies like cockroach crumble and centipede sundae. But what truly sent a shiver down their spines was the special of the day. Blood pudding with a side of fingernail fries. The woman chuckled, shaking off the initial shock. She assumed it was all part of the restaurant's unique selling point. Perhaps, she thought, it was some sort of a Halloween-themed gimmick, designed to give patrons a little thrill with their meal. She found the concept amusing, her laughter echoing around the room, a stark contrast to the eerie ambience that had settled in. The man, however, was not amused. His face paled as he scanned the menu, his eyes widening with each grotesque item he read. He felt a tight knot of unease in his stomach. This was no ordinary restaurant, he concluded. There was something deeply unsettling about it, something that went beyond a mere gimmick. The man's intuition screamed at him, a primal instinct shouting that something was horribly, horribly wrong. He tried to voice his concerns, but the woman simply brushed them off, dismissing his worries as overreaction. She was too caught up in the novelty of the situation, too enthralled by the unusual experience to heed his warning. Her laughter continued to ring out, a chilling melody against the backdrop of his growing fear. And so the couple sat there, their reactions a study in contrast. One laughed, the other trembled. One saw fun, the other saw foreboding. One saw a gimmick, the other saw a warning. As the reality of their predicament began to sink in, a single question echoed in the man's mind. What kind of restaurant serves such dishes? Their curiosity piqued, they decided to question the waiter. The man, with a half-hearted chuckle, asked about the peculiar ambience of the place. The waiter, a lanky figure with a face that held stories, paused before he began his tale. The restaurant, he explained, had a history that stretched back over a century. It was a place of grandeur and decadence where the elite would gather, their laughter echoing off the ornate walls. Yet it was also a place of tragedy, its beauty marred by a series of inexplicable occurrences. The waiter spoke of a night when the chandeliers shivered and the walls bled, of a night when the diners vanished, leaving behind only half-eaten meals and empty glasses. He spoke of strange noises, after midnight, of whispers and cries that echoed through the empty halls. He told them of the chefs who'd gone mad, of the waitstaff who'd disappeared, and of the patrons who'd never returned. Each story was more chilling than the last, a sinister tapestry of horror and mystery. The woman listened, her skepticism evident in her raised brows and the skeptical tilt of her lips. It was all just a part of the restaurant's charm, she thought, a clever marketing ploy to attract thrill-seekers. The man, however, grew increasingly uncomfortable, his laughter now completely absent. The waiters' tales, whether true or not, had successfully stirred up a sense of unease. As the waiter retreated, leaving them with their thoughts and an unsettling silence, the man couldn't help but glance around the room. His eyes lingered on the ornate chandeliers, the opulent walls, the half-empty glasses left by previous patrons. He couldn't shake off the waiter's words, the stories of horror and tragedy that the restaurant held within its ancient walls. The tales were just urban legends, right? Their appetizers arrived, but there was something off about the food. The delightful culinary experience they had anticipated was quickly replaced by a feeling of uncertainty. The food on their plates didn't exactly match the elegant descriptions on the menu. It looked strange, almost alien, and lacked the enticing appeal that any first course should possess. The man, a food connoisseur of sorts, was the first to notice the oddity. His adventurous palate had savoured an array of delicacies from around the globe, but this was different. Even the air seemed to have adopted an unusual odour, a blend of the unfamiliar and the unpleasant. It was as if the atmosphere itself was hinting at the grotesque nature of their meal. He pushed his plate away, his appetite waning. The woman, still sceptical and somewhat amused, decided to give it a try. She was not one to shy away from the unconventional. Perhaps, she thought, this was simply a novel culinary experiment, a daring deviation from the norm. She picked up her fork, her curiosity piqued, and took a bite. The moment the morsel touched her tongue, she felt a strange sensation. It wasn't the explosive burst of flavours she'd expected. Instead, it was an unsettling mix of the bitter and the sour, a taste that was entirely out of place in a restaurant of such repute. She swallowed, hoping the initial shock was just her taste buds adjusting to the new experience. But the discomfort lingered, spreading a chill down her spine. She put down her fork, her face mirroring the man's earlier expression of distaste. They exchanged a look, a silent agreement that something was terribly amiss. Little did they know, this was just the beginning, the first taste of the horror that awaited them. It was a decision, her decision to take that bite, that she would soon regret. The first course had been served, the main course, however, was yet to come, and it promised to be far more terrifying than anything they could have possibly imagined. Suddenly the woman began to feel unwell. Her vision blurred and her stomach churned, as if a storm had taken hold of her insides. The once tantalizing aroma of the restaurant now filled her senses with an indescribable dread. She clutched at the edge of the table, her knuckles turning white. She felt a sensation of falling, as if the floor beneath her had given way. Her surroundings twisted and turned in her vision, manifesting grotesque shapes. The portraits on the wall began to melt, their faces distorted into an eerie semblance of a smile. The chandelier overhead swayed violently, casting monstrous shadows that danced and contorted around the room. Her reality was becoming a horrifying phantasmagoria, a ghastly circus of her deepest fears. Meanwhile, the man, oblivious to her internal torment, tried to comfort her. He reached across the table, his hand shaking as he called for help. But his words echoed in the woman's ears, sounding distant and detached, like a fading echo in a long, grim hallway. The restaurant staff, however, moved about with an uncanny calmness, their faces devoid of any concern. It was as if they were accustomed to such happenings, their cold indifference adding another layer to the unfolding horror. The waiter, who had served them earlier, merely smiled, his eyes gleaming with a sense of satisfaction, as if he was in on some dreadful secret. The woman's heart pounded in her chest. Her breaths came in short, ragged gasps. She felt a cold dread spreading through her veins, her mind screaming that something was awfully wrong. It was not just the food or the wine, but the entire setting of the restaurant that was conspiring against her. As the woman's consciousness began to fade, she felt the man's grip tighten around her hand. His face was a mask of terror, his eyes wide with horror, but it was too late. The room was spinning, the shadows were closing in, and the last thing she heard was the man's desperate cry for help. Something was terribly wrong. The man finally understood the terrible truth. His heart pounded in his chest, echoing the drum of terror that filled the room. The restaurant, once a haven of culinary delight, was now a den of despair. The stories, the whispers in the wind, they weren't just urban legends. They were chilling realities, a testament to the horror that lurked within these walls. His eyes met the woman's. Fear, raw and unfiltered, mirrored in their depths. They had walked into this nightmare together, lured by the allure of the unknown. But now they were prisoners in their own curiosity, captives in a tale of terror they never wished to be a part of. The man, courage surging through his veins, grabbed the woman's hand. They had to escape. They had to break free from this gastronomic hell. He pulled her towards the door, their only hope for salvation. But as they reached for the handle, their hearts sank. The door, once a welcoming entrance, was now an impenetrable barrier. It was locked. Despair washed over them like a tidal wave, drowning their hopes of escape. The man pounded on the door, his fists echoing the desperation that had seized them. But the door stood unmoving, a silent sentinel to their impending doom. Around them, the restaurant seemed to close in, the walls whispering tales of those who had come before them. Tales of those who had entered with hope, only to be swallowed by the darkness. The woman trembled, her fear a palpable entity in the room. The man, despite his own terror, squeezed her hand in reassurance. They were in this together. They had to face the horror, face the terrible truth that had been revealed. And there, in the heart of the restaurant, under the haunting glow of the chandeliers, they stood. Two souls, bound by terror, swallowed by the shadow of a horror story, come to life. The man knew, as he looked into the woman's frightened eyes, they weren't just dining in a restaurant. They were part of its sinister tale. They were trapped. In the face of terror, they had to fight back. Our protagonists, the man and the woman, found themselves backed into a corner, their appetites replaced by an instinctive hunger for survival. The restaurant staff, once the epitome of courteous hospitality, now revealed their true, monstrous forms. It was a nightmare brought to life, a grisly banquet where they were the main course. The man and the woman, ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, discovered reserves of bravery they never knew they possessed. They fought back, not with weapons, but with the indomitable spirit of survival. Their battle was not just against the staff, but against the shroud of terror that gripped them. The woman, her eyes gleaming with determination, lashed out at the closest monster, her high heel a makeshift weapon. The man, his heart pounding in his chest, used a silver serving tray as a shield, deflecting the advances of another beast. The scene was a chaotic dance of survival. The air was thick with tension, the eerie silence punctuated only by the clash of improvised weapons and the guttural growls of the monstrous staff. Yet, amidst the chaos, there was also a strange, captivating beauty. The man and woman moved as one, their desperation forging an unbreakable bond. Every second was a struggle, each moment a testament to their indomitable will. They were not heroes, they were survivors, driven by the primal instinct to live. They fought with everything they had, their actions a silent declaration of defiance against the horrors that sought to consume them. There was no guarantee of victory, no promise of survival. Yet they fought on, their spirits unbroken. They had become warriors in a battle they never asked for, their courage shining brighter than any horror that sought to extinguish it. Would they make it out alive? The question hung in the air, a chilling reminder of the uncertainty that loomed over them. But one thing was certain: they would not go down without a fight. They would struggle until the very end, their courage a beacon of hope in the face of unimaginable horror. And so the terror of that night ended. Or did it? The question lingers in the air, as heavy as the silence that follows a chilling tale. The fate of our man and woman, trapped in a restaurant where horror was the main course, remains shrouded in mystery. A mystery as thick as the fog outside that fateful establishment. Does the darkness recede, surrendering to the first rays of dawn? Or does it continue to feast, its insatiable appetite whetted by fear and despair? Perhaps the answer lies not in the conclusion but in the journey, the harrowing path walked by those who dare to venture into the unknown. Now, as the echoes of this story fade, a new one prepares to unfold. A tale that promises to pull you deeper into the abyss, where the line between reality and nightmare blurs. To uncover more chilling tales, subscribe to my channel. Until next time, remember, darkness lurks where you least expect it.